Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our August Shotsuki service here at Higashi Honganji. As some of you know, we just started doing in-person services in mid-June, and then we did some in-person services through July, and then obviously today is the first Sunday in August. However, because there's increased numbers of cases, increased hospitalizations. For the rest of August, we are not going to have in-person services. So it's unfortunate, but we just want to be safe. And so in August, moving forward, we will no longer have in-person services. By about August 20th, we'll let families know and temple members know about the September Shotsuki service, which is the second Sunday in September because of Labor Day. So stay tuned for that. But for all of you, please be safe, and hopefully, most of you are going to be vaccinated. I don't want to get into that, but I am. So, anyways, I hope that all of you stay safe and stay healthy moving forward. We'll give you more particulars about that, but anyways, stay tuned. I would like to ask Rinban Ito to read the Shotsuki names for August.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our August Shotsuki Memorial Service. 皆さんおはようございます。8月小月法要にようこそお参りくださいました。I'd like to read the names of the persons that are being honored today. 福満杉雄様、平田ヘンリー広治様、広沢フランク信夫様、今木幸子様、石原茂様、伊藤和子様、伊藤作兵衛様、木下久太郎様、木下富様、栗原メリー久代様、黒川康生様、久坂初江鈴井様、三内静様、森山sam進様、向坂幸子様、中村勝久様、中尾松太郎様、中尾三好様、中曽根武俊ロバート様、西永正様、西永寛様、小川ケネス誠様、坂本ジェーン和美様、坂本真理様、坂本明スティーブ様、坂本ロイ聖子様、坂上グリ様、新保和夫様、清水真理様、新野澄江様、須沢綾子様、高田奈美様、高田実様、田村耕作様、徳永ジェフ弘樹様、豊島エイミー様、上森澄子ダーリン様、渡辺雅子様、山田実様、山本圭様、山本澄江様、吉田俊様、以上であります。それから妹藤様、コントスピーター・ジャン様、カントス・ピーター・ジャン様、牧山弁隼人様、村田梅様、以上であります。はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you, Rinban. So next, we will be. So the other thing about this coronavirus, the COVID situation, is when singing and chanting, we ask that you sort of sing to yourself quietly and chant to yourself quietly until further notice. It's not the most festive, but at the same time, I think if you sing to yourself I mean, I sing to myself really well, so I actually enjoy it. So that's one of the things that we are asking everybody to do. So now if you can all please rise for the Gatha Seiya, which is on page 22 in the service book, and the QR code is page 30. And the three treasures will be after the singing of Seiya on page 17 and 18, and the QR code is page 2.
Difficult is it to receive life in human form. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma. Now we hear it. If we do not receive awakening in the present life, then in what life can we hope to receive it? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together as one, begin on the great path of enlightenment, holding in our hearts the supreme aspiration. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together as one, enter the storehouse of the Dharma and attain true wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together as one, uniting in harmony, strive to live for the enlightenment of all beings. The incomparable, deep, and profound Dharma is difficult to encounter, even through countless ages of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us endeavor to thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Buddha Dharma. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you. I can't believe how good I sounded singing to myself, but you guys all missed out. So next, we are going to have the chanting of Shoshinge, which is on page 20 in the service book, and the QR code is page 4. And for those of you who weren't able to offer incense earlier, we ask that you come in from the outside aisles and then offer incense, and then go back to your seats through the center aisle. Thank you. Thank you. And another name for the August Shotsuki list, Matsui Kinoshita Beri Ayako-sama. Thank you. So while we get ready for the, actually, no, we are moving on to the Otani Gakuen choir performance of Hotoke wa Tsune ni from the Ryojin Hisho Heian period song collection composed by Shizuo Tachibana. And the singers today will be Setsuko Kawamoto and Wayne Itoga. And of course, always led by Mrs. Kazue Funai. Thank you to the Otani Gakuen for that performance. As you probably noticed, we don't have, well, granted our choir is not huge, but we don't have all of our singers singing yet together as a group. But down the road, we look forward to having them all sing together. So next is our English Dharma talk, and Reverend Hata will be delivering that. So Reverend Hata.
Oh, it's nice to see all of you here today. We weren't sure how many people would show up with, the news being rather dire, shall we say. But welcome, a hearty welcome to you, intrepid people coming to our August Shotsuki service. This is, I think as our chairperson mentioned, this is only the second in-person Shotsuki service we've been able to hold since the temple was closed back in March of 2020. And, I think we were all relieved back then last month to see each other again in person. But, as our chairperson mentioned, due to, yet another surge, this time it's the spread of the Delta variant, the temple leadership decided that starting from next Sunday, August 8th, our services will again be live streamed only. So I guess the sense of relief that we had being back at the temple and seeing each other in person, is unfortunately rather short-lived. And so what I'd like to discuss in my talk today is something that I think is very relevant, not only to this current development, to yet another surge, but also to our Shotsuki services. And so, first, I think we all know that our Shotsuki services are memorial services for our deceased loved ones, and that, at these services we say we encounter the reality of impermanence, which is expressed in the loss of our loved ones. It's unfortunate that we're having to suspend our in-person services because really of the same reality of impermanence, right? Which is now manifesting as the danger that the Delta variant of the coronavirus poses to us. And it's unfortunate because as Buddhists, we're taught to live awake to the truth of impermanence and to realize the preciousness of life. And this preciousness of life is, of course, underscored by the hundreds of thousands of American lives that have been lost to the pandemic. And, as we all know, though, and yet, even as many doctors and civic leaders repeatedly emphasize the need for everyone to get vaccinated, there are these reports, I'm sure you've seen in the media, of many who are hesitant or downright refuse to get vaccinated. Sometimes they're referred to by the term the anti-vaxxers. And there are some, including President Biden, who have gone so far as to say that the current surge of the Delta variant among the unvaccinated means that what we have now is essentially a, quote, pandemic of the unvaccinated. And so, I don't pretend to know the answer to the question of why some people are resistant to vaccination or some people are outright opposed to it. I think there might actually be a variety of reasons, not just one reason. And actually, I did read what I think was a very thoughtful report recently in the Atlantic magazine. It was an interview with a doctor who's on the front lines of treating the unvaccinated who are now flooding the ER rooms. This doctor was cautioning us to not be so quick to judge those who are unvaccinated. And actually, according to this doctor, the majority of the unvaccinated are not really the outspoken anti-vaxxers, but are more accurately simply uninformed or misinformed and tend to have doubts about the safety of the vaccines and their possible side effects. Probably even those of us who are vaccinated have some questions about it when we went ahead and got the vaccine. So in that sense, I think he was trying to say, don't be so quick to judge and maybe see the causes and conditions of people that cause them to resist getting vaccinated. And maybe in this case, one ray of hope here is that, some people have said that when the vaccines receive full FDA approval, as you know, right now they have emergency FDA approval, but when they receive full FDA approval, possibly in the next month or two, many of these people who are currently unvaccinated will likely be more willing to get vaccinated. So that's a sign of hope there. But for now, the current challenge seems to be to redouble efforts to educate the public about the effectiveness of the vaccines and the need to get vaccinated. And then, I was also thinking that, in Shin Buddhism, we often talk about, we use terms like other power or power beyond the self, which is really a reference to the power of impermanence itself. And I think that one of the most powerful examples of impermanence, and one that hopefully can convince people who are as yet unvaccinated to get vaccinated, and I'm sure you've seen these interviews on TV of unvaccinated people lying in an ER bed with an oxygen mask on and then, saying something very quite moving like, "Take it from me, you don't want to end up like this." I think you've probably seen some of those reports. But, in any case, I think whether one is hoping that the unvaccinated get vaccinated or simply hoping something more simple like having a hope that all of us can come together and work collectively to bring this pandemic under control, I really can't think of a more appropriate source of guidance for this collective effort than the Buddha's wisdom. And here, I'm thinking particularly of the Buddha's teaching of interdependence, which I'm sure you've heard of and already know about. Actually, I think we could say that this teaching of interdependence is arguably currently influencing doctors and civic leaders when we hear them encouraging the unvaccinated to get vaccinated, not only to protect themselves, but to protect others also, right? I think you've heard these kinds of emphasis being made by doctors and civic leaders. In other words, our defense against the virus is only as strong as our most vulnerable people, which are the unvaccinated. I think we could, in fact, put this in the language of the 18th vow of the Largest Sutra. I'm sure some of you know the Largest Sutra is the fundamental sutra of our Pure Land Buddhist tradition. And in the 18th vow of the Largest Sutra, the Bodhisattva Dharmakara says that unless everyone is awakened, I will not be awakened. Obviously, this is a statement of the interdependence, the interconnectedness of all of our awakenings, right? We could put this same vow and apply it to this vaccination issue and say, unless everyone is vaccinated, none of us is truly vaccinated. None of us is truly protected, right? This is the Buddha's teaching of interdependence. And I wanted to share with you today some thoughts about this teaching of interdependence. And in this regard, I think one of its most striking representations is in the well-known metaphor of Indra's net. Indra's net. You might have seen the quote, this is the quote for today's service. It was posted on Instagram and Facebook. I know some of you may have seen it. This is a quote describing Indra's net from the great British Buddhist teacher, Alan Watts. Imagine a multi-dimensional spider's web in the early morning covered with dewdrops, and every dewdrop contains the reflection of all the other dewdrops. And in each reflected dewdrop, the reflections of all the other dewdrops in that reflection, and so on, ad infinitum. That is the Buddhist conception of the universe in an image. And let me show you just a few of literally hundreds of images you can find on Google. If you Google Indra's net, INDRA'(S) net, if you Google that, you'll find hundreds of images. Here's one. This is looks like a spider's web with dewdrops on it, which is kind of what Alan Watts was talking about. This is another one. This is more three-dimensional. And this is also three-dimensional. If you Google Indra's net, you can spend a couple of hours looking at all of the images, and it's very fascinating. However, I think what has to be one of the most memorable discussions about this teaching of interdependence actually comes from about 13 centuries ago in ancient China. In the 7th century of the Common Era, there's a memorable story about a great Chinese Dharma teacher named Fa Sang. And of course, we know that before Fa Sang, Shakyamuni Buddha himself taught interdependence. Some of you may know it's known by other terms such as dependent arising or the Sanskrit term pratitya samutpada. But this teaching of interdependence goes back to Shakyamuni Buddha. But in 7th century China, some 1,200 years after the Buddha, this teaching found dramatic and visual expression within Chinese Buddhists as the metaphor of Indra's net. And there's a really fascinating story about this teacher, Fa Sang, which shows, I think, his creative brilliance as a teacher. According to this story, he's said to have brought none other than the Empress Wu herself to enlightenment by demonstrating Indra's net right there in her palace chambers. Before I do give you the story, let me give you a little background about Indra's net. So, along with the Largest Sutra, which I already mentioned is the foundational sutra of our Pure Land tradition, another of these early and very profound Mahayana sutras is known as the Flower Garland Sutra, or Avatamsaka Sutra, which is the source of the metaphor of Indra's net. And Fa Sang was one of this sutra's greatest teachers. But it's said that, not surprisingly, when Fa Sang first began lecturing on the Flower Garland Sutra, these principles, these Mahayana sort of cosmic principles that he discussed were so abstract that everyone who listened was utterly dumbstruck. They heard him speak and they went, "What?" And therefore, as a great teacher, to render the sutra comprehensible to the masses of Buddhist faithful, and especially to his imperial patron, the Empress Wu, he used metaphors such as Indra's net of jewels, some examples of which you saw earlier. And here's how Fa Sang himself defined Indra's net. Quote, "In each of the jewels, the images of all the other jewels are reflected. The images multiply infinitely, and all these multiple images are bright and clear within a single jewel. This mutual linking and interpenetration illustrates the harmonious interconnectedness of everything. Here, objects cannot be conceived of independently. They can only be conceived of as a whole. The nature of each object is defined by its relationship to all other objects." End quote. So I think you can see here in Fa Sang's definition, I think you can see the relevance of this metaphor of Indra's net to the current resurgence of the coronavirus, right? If everyone truly realized their interconnection with everyone else, I think they would naturally take responsibility for protecting not only themselves, but everyone else. But Fa Sang went even further than simply giving a verbal definition. In order to convey this point in a live demonstration, he devised a hall of mirrors to illustrate the workings of Indra's net. He arranged 10 mirrors. There were 8 mirrors in an octagon, and then 1 mirror above and 1 below, and in the middle was a statue of the Buddha. And then with the room darkened, when he lit a candle to illuminate the Buddha, an endless web of reflected light crisscrossed, creating an infinite series of images within images. Each image was separate, but each image also contained all the other images. This demonstration made clear the meaning of the infinite interconnectedness of the universe, and therefore the infinite power of the Buddha Dharma. In the story, the Empress Wu was said to have attained enlightenment right there in the room. And now, more recently, actually much more recently, I happened to discover that there was a Buddhist Sangha in the Midwestern US that had built a kind of replica of Fa Sang's Hall of Mirrors. I'm not sure if this Hall of Mirrors is still there or not, because I think I read somewhere that this Sangha unfortunately experienced a fire on their property not too long ago, so I'm not sure if the particular building that houses this Hall of Mirrors is still there. And this Sangha, by the way, represents a Tibetan Buddhist-based tradition. Just as a way of explaining this, the Pure Land tradition is part of the Mahayana branch of Buddhism, but Tibetan Buddhism is part of what's known as the Vajrayana branch of Buddhism. But nonetheless, this teaching of interdependence, I think, is found within all branches of Buddhism. It's universal throughout Buddhism. And this Midwestern Sangha is known as the Sogyalgar Buddhist School, and it's located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So I have a question. Would you like to see a short video taken inside the Sogailagar House of Mirrors? Okay. Maybe we should darken the room. I'm just kidding. Well, did you attain enlightenment like Empress Wu? Actually, I'm not saying that one has to literally, visit this hall or see a visual demonstration of this hall of mirrors in order to attain enlightenment. I'm not saying that. But, I was thinking, some of you might be thinking now, hey, let's go on a temple outing to Ann Arbor, Michigan. But, I think if such a tour was offered, I'd be interested in going, just out of curiosity, of course. I think I would find it interesting. But, I think that in our Jodo Shinshu tradition, I think we would say that really any encounter with the Dharma, any experience that sensitizes us to the truth of the impermanence and interdependence of life can, in fact, help advance us towards our enlightenment. And certainly this includes not only our, witnessing yet another surge of the coronavirus, but also our encountering the reality of the passing away of our loved ones in today's Shotsuki service. And so in closing, it's my hope that we can all continue to listen to the wisdom of the Buddha's teachings, and that in any way that we can, that we join together with others and share this teaching for the benefit of all beings. So thank you very much for listening. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Reverend Peter, for the very timely and thought-provoking talk. Yeah, those mirrors do look kind of interesting, and I don't know if I'll be going to Ann Arbor, but I may want to now. Anyway, so next we will have a Japanese talk by the Rinban.
If you don't understand any Japanese, you're welcome to go out to the foyer if you like. But at any rate, today I have the opportunity to present Dharma talk in Japanese. 皆さん、おはようございます。今日は8月の正月法要でありまして、多くのなんて言いますか、午前中に最初に名前を名簿を読んでいただきましたら、お寺に非常に大事な方が8月にお亡くなりになってるなと思いました。最近ある友人の家に行きまして、NHK ワールドで流れたビデオを見せてくれたんです。で NHK ワールドっていうのはご存知のように日本の文化とか歴史とか今起こっていることとかを英語で紹介するチャンネルで、このビデオはテンプルファミリー、お寺の家族っていう題名でのビデオだったんです。でこの家族は 京都に東本願寺のお寺末寺がありまして、でそこの住職と奥さんとそれから子供さんのお話なんです。でその家族はなぜそういうことがあったのかっていう説明はなかったんですけども、アメリカ多分カリフォルニアの方に来られて10年ほど家族がアメリカで生活をされたんです。でそのうちに子どもたちは英語はもう普通に話せるようになって、で親も英語も話せるそういう家族なんです。で今は京都に戻って法蓮寺というお寺を運営しようとしていると。でお父さんは私より多分若いと思うんでまだ住職は続けられると思うんですけども、やはりその後継ぎのことを考えてその息子さんが次の住職になるっていう方向で進んでいる。でその息子さんはある程度その抵抗があったんですけども、いろんなことを考えて、またはそのお母さんからもおすすめがあったり、お父さんからもおすすめがあって、それで、住職にじゃあ次の住職になりましょうと。でそのうちに結婚をされて、その奥さんはお寺の出身じゃないので在家って言いますけど在家の方で、お寺のことまた仏教のこともほとんど何も知らないと。だけどいろんな話をしていて、でその奥さんもじゃあ私も頑張りますと。でいずれは奥さんも得度を受けて、それで夫婦でこれからお寺生活をすると。でお母さんはね日本の伝統ではご存知かと思うんですけども、長男が継ぐと、長男が次の住職になるっていう、そういう伝統がずっともう何百年も続いている。だけど最近は例えばここにおられた岡田明子さんも兄弟がいないので、女性であるけどもお父さんの後の住職になるということを決めておりますし、私のいとこの中にも広島のお寺で彼女も男兄弟がいなかったから住職になって娘さんと2人で運営していると。ですからそういうことで徐々に日本の伝統も少しずつ変わってきているんですけども、とにかく今はその息子さんはもう頑張ってお寺若い人も入りやすいお寺にしましょうとか、ある程度のそのアメリカで勉強したことも取り入れて、で明るいお寺、誰でも歓迎できるお寺になってほしいっていう、そういう努力をしていると。ですから考えてみると、その息子さんは小さい頃はお坊さんになるとかなりたくないとかっていう気持ちもあったらしいんですけども、やはりよくよく考えて、またその勉強もされて、そのお経を読むこともできて、で喜んでもうお父さんの後を継ぐ、そういうなんて言いますか人生を送っていると。ですからそういう若い住職の努力で徐々にお寺も変わっていくかと思うんです。私は1ヶ月前ぐらいに東京教区っていう、東本願寺の場合は教区が50以上日本中にあるんですけども、東京教区の方から依頼があって、私と三好信子さんとの話を聞きたい、 アメリカの状況、仏教の状況、お寺の状況を聞きたいということで、Zoom で本当にもう3時間ぐらい、私1時間半ぐらい喋って、彼女も1時間ぐらい喋って、でその後に質疑応答があったりで、非常に面白かったし、やはりその、ほとんど住職とか方が集まったんですけども、アメリカで、どうやってその例えば日曜礼拝をするのかとか、いろんな質問があって、でアメリカでやっていることを今度は日本のお寺に、取り入れることができるんじゃないかと、もっと活発化ができるんじゃないかというような考えで、私と信子さんを招いてくれたんです。で最近ちょっと考えていたのは、90年代の前半に佐藤哲良という方がここの北米海峡区の監督を何年か務めておりまして、でその佐藤先生から聞いた話が辻典子っていう方のお話です。でその辻典子さんは今だったら多分50ぐらいになってるかもしれないんですけども、彼女は非常にユニークな方で、ある時に新聞に辻典子の取材の記事が出てたんです。でこの人は本当に素晴らしい方であって、素晴らしい人生を送っているという新聞の記事で、彼女は次女だったので、別にそういう大きな新聞に記事が載ることは普通はないんですけども、彼女は非常にユニークな方で、1950年代の後半にお生まれになったんですけども、その頃にサリドマイドっていう薬があって、で妊娠している時のつわりを抑える薬だと。で本当にもう奇跡的な薬っていうことで、アメリカでも人が飲んでたり、また日本に移って日本のお母さんがその薬を飲んだ。そしたら本当は最初はもうこれは奇跡的な薬であるということで皆様にお勧めしたんですけども、結果的にどうなったかっていうと、その子供が生まれた子供がもう何て言いますか、身体障害が非常に多くて、でこの典子さんも生まれた時にほとんど腕がない状態でお生まれになった。ですから腕がほとんどないんで、も手も一応はついてるんだけど普通のように手を使えないと。で子供赤ちゃんでそういうふうに生まれて非常に苦労をされた。でそのお母さんは最初はもう一生懸命世話をしようとしたんですけどもやはり少しずつ考えてみたら、この子はある程度自分で何でもできるようにならないといい人生を送ることができないということで、もうお母さんがかなり厳しく例えば服をつける時に自分でやりなさい、自分でやりなさい、食べる時も自分でやりなさい。でその典子ちゃんは2歳の頃にもう非常に何でも普通の、私たちのできることが非常に難しくて、でいつも喧嘩になっちゃって、典子ちゃんは泣く、お母さんは頑張りなさい頑張りなさいって言うんですけども、もう場合によってはもう怒鳴り合わせになったりして、でもう私できません、お母さんにやってもらわなくちゃダメだって っていうようなことを言いながら、そういう会話で生活が続いてたんです。でそのある時に、もうお母さんがのりこちゃん抱いて、でその考えた時は、その時に考えたことは、もうこれはもう無理かもしれないと。もう私は自殺して、子供を連れて行った方がいいんじゃないかっていうふうに思った。だけどやはりその家族はお寺に、非常に近しい関係がありまして、でそこの住職に相談に行ったら、やはりその住職は、いや人間はどんな状況であっても大切なものなんだと。だからやはりそうやって、独立できるような生活ができるように、しなさいと。でできるだけ喧嘩にもならないように、してくださいっていう、そういうお勧めをいただいて、それでお母さんとのりこちゃんの関係が徐々に良くなって、で彼女も徐々に、自分で食べたり自分で服をつけたりするようなこともできたと。それでなぜその新聞にそうやって出てたのかっていうと、なんて言いますか、教育を受けて、それから大人になって、でそれでその頃には日本ではそういう身障者のなんて言いますか、ハンディキャップパーキングとかそういうことがほとんどなかった。それで彼女が少しずつ頑張って政府に訴えたりして、それで徐々にそういう身障者のためのそういうなんて言いますか、設備とかを日本中に用意してきたと。でそれはその新聞の記事では、これは辻典子のおかげでその日本全体のそういう身体障害者をの生活をしなくてはならないことを助けてくれたというようなことで、それでそこの記事に書いてたのは、のりこさんしかできない仕事をしてくださったということは、そののりこさんが生きていける、そういう生涯で他の人の貢献をされたというようなことだったんです。でそうですね。このだからやはり私たちも、例えば畑会教師も、音楽家であったんですけども、やはり仏教に出会って、それで仏教を一生懸命勉強しようとして、それで今の畑会教師になっていると。で皆さん畑氏は、今月いっぱいで会教師を辞めることになるんですけども、皆さんもご存知のように、彼は僧侶になるまではミュージシャン、ギターのプロフェッショナルミュージシャン、ジャズの音楽を中心にやっていて、でその会教師になったもうこの7年頃ですかね、ほとんど音楽やめなくちゃならなかった。でもう70代に入ったので、これからは残りの人生を音楽に、音楽をやりたいということで、彼が音楽の方にまた移っていくと。ですから畑会教師のことを考えると、やはり2つの人生っていうか、一つは音楽で、もう一つは仏教で、その仏教と音楽、いつも音楽と仏教のお話をしてくれたりするんですけども、彼も 今までの人生の中で、自分に、適切な人生が見つけることができたと。で彼は言うのは会計士は辞めるけど僧侶は辞めませんと。っていうことは毎日毎週とか毎日にはお寺にいないかもしれないですけどもこれからも別院のお手伝いとか、信州を広げるそういう努力を続けてくださると思います。やっぱり考えてみますと私たちもその彼のようになんていうんですかタレントはないかもしれないですけどもやはり自分辻典子さんと同じように自分しか生きていけない人生を歩んでいくと自分のなんていうんですかね目標を決めて徐々に歩んでいく、ということを教えてくださるんじゃないかと思います。最後に相田光夫さんの、昔書かれた詩をご紹介して、終わりたいと思います。これは白百合っていうタイトルで、こういうことです。人里離れた谷間の白百合の花は誰にも見てもらえないの。ちょっともう一回。人里離れた谷間の白百合の花は誰にも見てもらえないのですが、少しの駆け引きもなく精一杯の美しさで咲いています。でそれはその花の話なんですけどもやはり私たちも同じように、なんていうんですか命をいただいていてでどっちかっていうと私たちは自分のいいところを見せようとしたりしますんですけどもで人と会う時にはちゃんとなんていうのいい服を着たりとよりよく見せるようにしようとすると。ですけどこの白百合は精一杯美しさをなんていうんですかその精一杯で生きていくっていうことが美しい姿であるということではないかと思います。私たちも同じように頑張って自分でいいんだけど自分を一生懸命生きていこうということのお勧めではないかと思います。ちょっと長くなりましたので申し訳ないですけど今日は、ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Rinban. So we will now move into some announcements. So first, I forgot to mention this earlier, and I apologize, but some of you may have participated and watched the virtual obon that we had last week. Since we weren't able to do the in-person obon, we did another virtual obon. Hopefully it'll be the last. But it was very successful thanks to all of you and all of our temple friends. And if you want to still see the virtual obon, it's about an hour long. It's on our Facebook page and it will soon be on our website. So if you want to watch the virtual obon, it's a lot of fun. And thanks to everybody who provided assistance in getting that together, and also some of the fundraisers that we had were also successful. So again, thank you to everybody for participating. And for those of you who ordered Montoe lanterns, please pick them up by the end of the month, and especially if you check that box on the application that says you want to pick it up. But they are already ready for you to pick up, and so we ask that you pick them up by the end of the month. And also, as mentioned at the very beginning, unfortunately, with the surge in coronavirus cases, we are going to suspend in-person services for the rest of the month of August. But as Reverend Peter mentioned, we will continue to stream them online, so you can watch them online if you would like. And by August 20th or so, we'll know more about what we're going to do in September. Let's hope that the cases start coming down and the hospitalizations start to come down. And so that's what we're hoping, but please stay tuned for that. Okay, I think.
アナウンスを日本語でさせていただきます。ほとんど皆さんお分かりかと思うんですけども、6月の中旬からもう皆様を歓迎して一緒にお勤めができてたんですけども、皆さんもご存知のようにデルタの種類のウイルスが非常に早く広がっていて、でまた病院もいっぱいになったりしていますので、それで今日はこうやって皆様と一緒にお勤めできたんですけど、来週から8月いっぱいまでもうなんて言いますか、インパーソンの日曜礼拝はできないということで、来週からストリーミング発信だけで、させていただきます。で8月の20日あたりに、もう一回様子を見て、で9月第2の日曜日の正月に、皆さんに来ていただくことができるかどうかをお知らせいたします。ご了承お願いいたします。ありがとう。
Okay, so now if you would all please rise for the singing of Ondok-san 1. You'll find that on page 112 in the service book or the QR code page 28. Okay, so that concludes our August Shotsuki service. So please stay safe. Unfortunately, there's no refreshments because we can't do that right now. But please, Tom, did you have a question?
Where do we pick up our Obon t-shirts?
In the temple office, yeah. Yeah. Also, for those of you who order Obon t-shirts, they're available at the temple office as well. So yeah, please stay safe, and you can still go into Little Tokyo and support the Little Tokyo businesses if you'd like, but please stay safe, and we hope to see you in the not too distant future. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming.
どうもおはようございます。